For 5,000 years, humanity had been silent. No ships, no messages, no colonies, just silence across the stars. The galaxy had almost forgotten them. Long ago, humans were powerful. They had explored many worlds and built great cities on distant planets. But one day, they disappeared. No one knew why. Some said a great war had ended them. Others believed they had destroyed themselves. But the truth was, no one really knew. The Galactic Council, made up of many alien races, moved on. New powers rose. Old wars ended. Peace was found, at least for a while. But in the back of their minds, many still feared the return of humans. Then, everything changed. A deep space listening post on the edge of Council territory picked up something strange. A signal, very old, but very clear. It was not in any alien language. It was in Terran Standard, the language of Earth. The signal repeated again and again. This is Beacon 7. Terran Colony Defense Protocol active. We are under threat. Requesting aid. Coordinates 391 Alpha Earth origin. This is Beacon 7. Terran Colony. The message was old, broken, but alive. The words sent fear through the Council. The humans were back. Or at least, something human was still out there. The Council quickly met in emergency session. Could it be a trap? Asked one ambassador. No human has been seen in over 5 millennia, said another. They're gone. They were never gone, said the oldest council member, a 6-eyed alien called Vornax. They were just waiting. The council decided to send a small scout team to the signal's location. Just a few ships. Quiet. Careful. No weapons drawn. They didn't want to start a war. If humans were truly awake again. The scout ships reached a lifeless planet near the outer rim. The surface was dry, covered in dust and ice. But under the ground, something was hidden. A metal door was found, huge, rusted, and half buried under stone. Strange symbols covered its surface, human symbols. The scouts opened the door using machines. It groaned and shook, and behind it was a tunnel, going deep underground. The team entered slowly, lights flickering in the darkness. They found machines, long dead but still warm. Screens blinked. Words in English glowed in the dark. STANDY. System rebooting. They moved further in. Then they saw it. Rows of cryo chambers. Hundreds. No, thousands. All filled with sleeping humans. The air turned cold. One of the chambers started to blink. Then it opened. A human stepped out. His eyes were sharp, but he looked confused. His voice was rough from long sleep. Where are we?" he asked. The aliens stood frozen. They had never seen a real human before. The man looked around. He saw the scouts. He didn't panic. Instead, he smiled. Just a little. "Is it time?" he whispered. "Is the war still going?" The scouts backed away. One of them tried to send a message to the council. The human stepped forward. "You came to wake us," he said. "You heard the call." Then his voice changed. It became louder. Stronger. "Wake the others," he said. "We've slept long enough." One by one, the cryo chambers began to light up. Back on the council station, the ambassador watching the signal stood up in shock. The message had changed. The signal was live again. New words now echoed across the galaxy. "We are humanity. We remember everything. And we are coming back." The silence was broken, and everyone knew nothing would ever be the same again. The message spread fast. Across the stars, old satellites and communication beacons lit up one by one. Every time, it was the same voice, the same signal from the sleeping humans. Some called it a warning. Others called it a promise. But no one knew what it really meant. The Galactic Council grew uneasy. They held secret meetings, trying to understand what they had just heard. Some members believed the humans were still weak. Others feared that they had only rested, not disappeared. Vornax, the elder of the council, sat in silence during the meetings. His people had lived through the time when humans walked among the stars. He remembered how quickly they built, how far they traveled, and how deeply they felt. "Do not think they are the same as us," he finally said. "When humans rise, they rise together. And when they remember, they act." Many on the council did not want to believe him. Meanwhile, the small scout team remained on the quiet, hidden planet. The chambers kept opening slowly. One human after another stepped out, confused at first, then calm. They looked at each other with understanding, without words. It was like they were remembering something that had never really left them. The alien scouts were not harmed. In fact, the humans spoke to them kindly. They asked questions. They listened. But even with their peaceful tone, there was something behind their eyes, something the scouts couldn't explain. A kind of focus, a purpose. Inside the old underground base, machines began to work again. Dust fell from the ceilings as energy flowed through walls that had been cold for centuries. Lights turned on, showing maps of ancient star systems, routes long erased from the galactic charts. One human sat before a screen and touched it gently. A hologram appeared. It showed Earth, old and gray, but still beautiful. His hand paused above it. Another human, a woman, stood near the center of the base. She pressed a button. A soft sound filled the air. It was a voice, female and warm. "Welcome back, Terran Command. Systems stable. Fleet status. Recovering. Please confirm." The scouts could not believe what they were seeing. These people had been asleep for thousands of years, but now they acted as if no time had passed. Outside the base, the land began to change. Hidden towers rose from the ground. Satellites launched into the sky without a sound. A message was sent across space, not in words but in signals, coded patterns only old human machines could read. And they did. Far from this lonely planet, in the deep black of space, machines that had once served humanity began to wake as well. Old stations, empty ships, small forgotten probes. They all lit up. The network was alive again. Back on the council worlds, strange things started to happen. At first, it was just small things, old data archives unlocking themselves, long-lost files suddenly appearing. Then came the messages. A simple sentence kept appearing in different places, in different languages. "We remember." Some people were excited. Many were afraid. History books were pulled out. Ancient records were reread. And one thing became clear. No one truly understood why the humans had gone silent. All they had were guesses, and none of those guesses brought comfort. The council sent another team to the human base, this time with a skilled translator and a peaceful leader named Thylos. He came in peace, holding no weapon, just an old book, a history of the galaxy. When he arrived, the humans welcomed him. They offered him food and shelter. He was surprised by their calm nature. They asked about the galaxy, about the changes, about the new worlds and the old ones. They asked about home. One of the humans looked out at the sky and whispered, "Did they keep it safe?" Thylos asked, "Who?" The human replied, "Earth." Thylos did not answer. He wasn't sure what to say. No one had been to Earth in centuries. It was off limits. A forgotten place. The human nodded, as if he already knew. For the next few days, the humans and Thylos shared stories. They talked about science, art, language, and memory. The humans seemed gentle, but something was building behind their kindness. Not anger, not fear, just purpose. And then, one morning, the sky above the planet filled with light. A fleet of old Earth ships entered orbit, shining silver and gold, silent and still. Their engines didn't make a sound, but their presence spoke loudly. Thylos looked up, his voice shaking. "They're not just awake," he said. "They're returning." And deep below, the humans looked at each other and smiled. The silence was over. But their story was just beginning. The ships in orbit floated like silent watchers in the sky. Their design was old, yet far ahead of anything the Council had seen before. No engines roared. No signals were sent. But every scanner, every device, every radar on the nearby worlds picked up the same thing. The humans had returned in full. Thelos stood outside the human base and stared upward. He had read about Terran ships in the ancient records, how they used to cross galaxies without needing gates, how they worked together as if they shared one mind. But seeing them with his own eyes was different. It felt like history had walked out of a dream. Inside the base, the humans worked quietly. There was no rush, no panic, just order, calm, purpose. Every person knew what to do without being told. Each step they took seemed part of something bigger, something planned long ago. They called it the recovery. One of them, a calm man named Elian, sat at the central terminal, speaking softly to the system eye. "Status report," he said. "Terran outposts across Quadrant 3 are awakening. Civilian cryo-cities at 62% operational capacity." "Memory node sensed," the eye replied. Elian nodded. "And Earth?" There was a pause. "Unknown. Last recorded contact, 4,986 years ago. No signal since." Another human, a young woman named Ayla, walked in. Her eyes were clear, her voice steady. "We must find it," she said. "That's where it began." "But it's been erased from every star map," Elian replied. "Then we remake the map." While this was happening, messages were quietly sent to the Terran ships above. They didn't use common galactic code. Instead, they used something older, something only their kind could read. The ships responded, one by one, aligning in a perfect circle around the planet. It was a sign, not of control, but of unity. On Council worlds, news of this spread fast. Some were curious, others were concerned. A few were hopeful, but no one was ready to speak publicly. Except one. Vornax appeared before the full council. He had been silent for many days. Now he stood tall, his voice calm but firm. "They are not invaders," he said. "They are rememberers. They are seekers." "What are they seeking?" one leader asked. "Their home," Vornax replied. "And maybe their place among us again." The council debated. Should they welcome humans back into the galaxy, or keep watching from afar? Should they make contact, or let things unfold? While they talked, humans continued waking on many hidden planets, places forgotten by time. Each one had a small base, a message, a signal, and each time, the message ended with the same words. "We were quiet, not gone. We were waiting, not lost." On the quiet planet where Elian and Ayla lived, something unexpected happened. A drone entered the atmosphere. It was small, old, and broken. But on its side were the faded colors of Earth's flag. The humans took it in carefully. Elian opened its panel. Inside was a single data crystal, still intact. He placed it in the terminal. A message appeared, not in words, but in images. Oceans, forests, cities, and a sky full of stars. Then came a voice, soft, familiar, almost human. "If you find this, then you've returned. We left the light on for you." Ayla smiled gently. "Earth is out there," she said, "calling us home." That night, for the first time in thousands of years, the human colony lit up its skies with beacons. They didn't signal danger. They signaled hope. Across the stars, other lights answered. One by one, planets long silent began to glow again. The humans were not gathering for conflict. They were gathering for reunion, for memory, for return. And still, no one could say what they would do next. Not even the humans themselves. They weren't following a leader. They were following a feeling, a connection to something deeper, older than maps or history. The silence that had lasted 5,000 years was now replaced by something new. Not noise, Not commands, but presence. A quiet presence that filled the galaxy like the first light of morning. Something had begun, and it would not stop. The stars now whispered again. From far-off systems, hidden moons, and ancient space stations, small signals blinked back in response to the Terran beacons. They were soft and slow, like a forgotten melody returning note by note. Machines long thought dead stirred quietly, and people on distant worlds looked up, feeling something they couldn't explain. The galaxy was waking up, not just to the humans, but to an older truth that had been buried for too long. Inside the restored base, Elian and Ayla stood near a newly activated chamber. It was different from the others, larger, older, covered in markings that even the humans didn't recognize right away. The AI called it the Core Memory Vault. When the vault opened, a cool blue light filled the room. Inside was a device, round and smooth like a river stone, glowing faintly. Elian picked it up. It was warm to the touch. The AI spoke softly. This object holds emotional records, memories stored not as data, but as experience. Terran minds once shared thoughts through this. Ayla stepped closer. Then it's not just history, it's feeling. They placed the object into the core terminal. At first, nothing happened. Then, a hum filled the air. Not a sound, exactly, but something felt in the chest, like the beat of a heart. The room changed. The walls shimmered, and then came visions, not pictures, but sensations. A ship launching, laughter in a green field, children running through water. The quiet of a storm in orbit, a farewell whispered in a cold sleep chamber. Everyone in the room, human and alien alike, felt these moments, and for the first time, the alien guests understood something deeper. Humanity hadn't vanished because they were defeated. They had chosen silence to preserve something precious. Elian turned to Thalos, who had returned to visit them again. "We weren't hiding from the galaxy," he said. "We were hiding something inside us." Thalos asked gently, "What was it?" "Hope," Ayla replied, "and fear of losing it." Meanwhile, high above the planet, the ships in orbit received a new set of coordinates. The humans called it the Path of Return. It wasn't a straight route. It bent across forgotten systems, cut through old trade lanes, and finally ended at a place marked only with one symbol, a circle surrounded by stars. It had no name, but every human who saw it recognized the pattern, even if they didn't remember how. And so, quietly, preparations began, not for battle, not for conquest, but for a journey. The Council, still unsure, decided to send observers, volunteers from each member species, including Vornax himself. They were to travel alongside the humans, to see where this path led, and to witness whatever would come next. A small fleet was formed. Not large, but carefully chosen. It carried engineers, historians, peace speakers, and memory holders. They called themselves the Listeners. Elian, Ayla, and a few others would leave from the front. But no one claimed to be in charge. No one gave orders. Everyone simply agreed. It was time to move forward. Before leaving, Elian stood before the last group of newly awakened humans. "We were once many voices," he said. "Then we became silent. Now we speak again, not to shout, not to rule, but to remember who we are, together." The ships began to rise. One by one, they moved into formation. No ceremony, no celebration. Just motion, clear, steady, quiet. And across the galaxy, those watching from faraway observatories saw the lights and wondered, what do the humans seek in that forgotten part of space? Some said they were going to find their home. Others said they were going to find the truth. But those who truly understood, they believed the humans were going to find each other. As the stars shifted and the journey began, no one knew what waited ahead. The path was old. The signs were faded. But something deep in the universe seemed to lean forward, listening. Because after so many years of silence, A story was being told again. Not loud, not fast, but steady and real. And it had only just begun. The journey began in silence. The Terran fleet, along with the observers from the Galactic Council, moved through space like a slow wave. There were no loud engines, no flashing signals, only calm movement and a quiet sense of purpose. Each ship carried not just people, but pieces of memory. Inside one of the lead vessels, Ayla stood before a wide window, watching the stars shift around them. She wasn't thinking about the mission or the next planet. They had all learned that those questions answered themselves in time. Instead, she was remembering the feeling she had when she first woke up. The stillness, the weight of time, the whisper of something not yet done. Elian entered, holding a small case. Inside was the memory stone, the one from the vault. He placed it gently on the center table. "It's changed," he said. "How?" Ayla asked. "It's warmer now. And when I touched it earlier, I felt something new. A mountain and a melody." They both stood in silence for a moment. Then Ayla said, "Maybe it's not just recording memories. Maybe it's growing." The idea felt strange, but not wrong. The humans had built things long ago that were more than machines. Some were designed to think, others to feel, but a few were made to remember. Meanwhile, in another part of the fleet, Vornax met with the other observers. They were all different, tall, short, scaled, feathered, but every one of them had the same look in their eyes: curiosity. They had expected to see power. Instead, they saw patience. They had expected orders. Instead, they were invited to listen. "I've been watching them," Vornax said softly. "They do not hurry. They do not explain. Yet every step they take is forward." A younger observer from a desert world asked, "Do you think they know where they're going?" "No," Vornax replied, "but I think they trust the journey." On the fourth day, the fleet reached a system with no name. It had a dim star, 2 empty planets, and 1 glowing moon. But it was the space between them that caught everyone's attention. There, floating in open space, was a structure, vast and round, like a ring made of light and shadow. It pulsed slowly, as if breathing. The scanners called it inactive, but everyone could feel it watching. Elian's ship approached first. As they drew closer, the memory stone began to glow brighter. The AI spoke. "This is a Terran relay gate, last used 5,004 years ago. No known access code remains." Ayla reached out and touched the controls. "We don't need a code," she said. "We need to remember." At her words, the ship's lights dimmed. The memory stone floated upward, spinning gently. From it came soft images, not just of stars and ships, but of people. Families, friends, laughter, silence. The ring responded. A gentle hum filled the space around them. The structure came alive, not with sound, but with light. Waves of it, moving like water across its surface. One by one, the other ships aligned behind Elian's. Then, the gate opened. Not in a flash, not in a rush, but like a door that had always been there, waiting for someone to knock gently. They entered. What waited on the other side was unexpected. It was not Earth, not a planet, not even space as they knew it. It was a station, floating alone in a calm pocket of the void. Silent, whole. Its design was clearly Terran, but older than any they had seen before. It had no name, no lights, no message. But the moment their ships entered orbit, something changed. Soft lights flickered on. A voice whispered, not through speakers, but inside their minds. "Welcome, children of memory. You have returned." No one spoke. Even the AI paused. Elian looked at Ayla. "Did you hear that too?" he asked. She nodded slowly. It wasn't a message. It was recognition. They sent a shuttle down. As it approached the surface of the station, Symbols began to glow along the landing path. Symbols that no one remembered learning, but every human could somehow read. They meant things like peace, home, and together. Inside, the air was still. Dust floated like snow. And in the center of the main hall stood a tall column of light. At its base was another memory stone, larger than the one they carried. When Ayla placed the smaller stone beside it, the two connected. A quiet tone filled the air. And slowly the light above them formed shapes, not just of the past, but of a path ahead. The moment the stones touched, something in the air shifted. The room, once still, now hummed with a low, almost imperceptible vibration. The humans who stood near the column of light felt the change, as though something deep inside them had awakened. The station, old as it was, seemed to respond to their presence, as if it had been waiting for them all along. Elian and Ayla stood in front of the column, their eyes reflecting the patterns of light that now danced across the walls. The symbols that had once seemed strange now made perfect sense. They were not just markings. They were paths, routes, memories, and connections between worlds. They showed a story that was long forgotten, a story that was slowly unfolding before them. Ayla stepped closer to the column, reaching out with her hand. The light, gentle but powerful, seemed to acknowledge her touch. As her fingers brushed the surface, a wave of images filled her mind. Images of Earth before the silence, images of families, of laughter, of peace, and then, of a quiet departure. The Terran people had not left the galaxy in defeat. They had left in search of something, something they had lost, something they had needed to protect. The voice returned, soft and familiar, not through the air, but within their very thoughts. You are the children of those who carried the memory. You have come to awaken what was never meant to be forgotten. Elian's voice trembled slightly. Who are you? He asked, not sure whether he was speaking to the station, the voice, or the memory itself. The light pulsed again, and the answer came, not in words, but in a deep, resonating understanding. We are the keepers of the old path. You are the seekers. You have always been. The journey was never about the destination. It was about returning to who you were. Ayla felt a warmth in her chest, something ancient and comforting, like the embrace of a mother long lost. She closed her eyes and breathed in the still air, feeling a deep connection to this place and to the voice that spoke through her thoughts. The journey, Elian whispered. It was about remembering, wasn't it? Yes, the voice replied. And it has always been about remembering. Remembering who you are, what you were meant to be. The humans who had come along on this journey stood silently, not out of fear, but out of reverence. They had thought they were searching for answers, for a home, for some kind of grand revelation. But now, they understood. They were searching for themselves. The images from the column continued to swirl, visions of old battles, yes, but also of peaceful moments of growth, of knowledge shared between races, of alliances formed, and of a galaxy that had once been united under a common purpose. It wasn't just humanity's story. It was the story of every species, every being that had touched the stars. In the midst of it all, a new image appeared, something beyond the reach of their understanding. A vast expanse, a new world, untouched by time. It was a place where all races, all people could unite once more, a place that had been hidden for thousands of years, waiting for those who had not given up on the dream. The voice spoke again as the images faded, leaving only the soft pulse of light in the room. The time has come. You have walked the old path. Now you must walk the new one. Elian's hand tightened around Ayla's. But where is this place? How do we find it? It is not a place to be found with your eyes, but with your hearts. It is the next step of your journey, and the journey of all who still remember. For a long moment, no one spoke. The hum of the station continued, soothing and constant. It was clear that this was not the end of their story. It was a new beginning, one that could not be fully understood yet, but one that they were now ready for. They stepped back from the column, their thoughts racing. The memory stone they had carried had now joined with the greater truth of the station. It was no longer just an object. It had become part of something much larger, a key to the future, to the unity that had once existed and could now be reborn. The journey ahead was uncertain, but one thing was clear: they were not alone. The galaxy, the universe itself, had always been waiting for them. And now it was time to move forward, to continue the path they had started so long ago. One by one, the crew members from every ship gathered in the central hall of the station. They exchanged looks, words unspoken but understood. They had all felt it, the pull of something greater, something more profound than any battle or conquest. They were a part of a story much older than themselves, and the future was waiting. Without a single command, they turned as one and began to move. Slowly at first, then faster as their confidence grew. They walked toward the exit of the station, toward the ships that awaited them. They would leave this place not as conquerors, not as refugees, but as bearers of a new hope. The light of the station flickered one last time, as if sending them off with a blessing. The doors opened, and the fleet moved forward, united, not in their goals or destinations, but in the understanding that they were all part of something larger. The journey was not over. It had only just begun. As they ascended into the stars, no one could say exactly where the path would lead. But one thing was certain: together, they would face whatever came next. And in the silence of space, a new story began to unfold, not one of struggle, but one of unity, of memory, and of hope.